Hey guys, welcome back to the workshop. I'm Josh. In this video, we have a quick knife teardown and reassembly, and I'll show you a few quick tips. One, how we can use the micro knife sharpener to break it down and reassemble, and how we can use these other sharpeners for an unexpected bonus in tuning your knife. I have the Benchmade bailout disassembled on the mat here, and well, I saved you guys some time, but we're going to dive into reassembling and tuning, and I'll share just a quick tip that you can apply to a lot of other knives that you may carry and tune up. First, I just want to say that big disclaimer here, if you take down your knife, you are likely going to void the warranty. Check with your manufacturer, and we're not recommending this. If you're in a pinch and you have to tear down the knife, here's some tips that you might be able to apply. First up, what I like to have on hand when I'm breaking down a knife is some masking tape, which you can see here. I've covered the edge of the blade so I can keep it safe and avoid cutting myself. I also like to have a metal cleaner or a solvent on hand just for breaking down debris and cleaning the knife, and some lubrication for the pivot as I reassemble. It can also be helpful to have some cotton swabs on hand or some cotton strips just for wiping down and cleaning up if it's a really dirty knife. If I'm out in my garage, I'll get the air compressor. If I'm doing this on my desk, I'll just grab some compressed air in a can. This will help with cleaning a knife that you don't have to tear down. You can get inside and blow out most of the pocket lint or any other debris without having to do a teardown. The primary thing we're looking to do in a breakdown is get to the action of the knife so that we can clean it up and you have a smooth, functioning opening knife. In this case, it's the axis lock, and we're not going to touch the axis. I've got the scales removed, but most of the functionality of the lock is still intact. I don't want to mess with that. What I am looking at is the blade and these bushings. Most quality knives will have a metal bushing, and we're looking to clean up the dirt or debris around that bushing. Sometimes sand or lint can get trapped between the bushing and the blade, or the bushing and the inside of the frame. So let's get these cleaned up. Let those set there for a little bit, and we'll come back to them in a minute. Now I want to address where those come in contact with the blade, and I'll do the same thing. Looks much better. While you're at it and you have the scales taken off, you can get inside with a Q-tip to clean up some of the inside of the scales. Get a little bit of solvent on the end of the Q-tip or cotton swab, and just wipe down the surface. This knife looked pretty clean, but as you can see, there's been a little bit of debris picked up, and it's nice to get that cleaned up. I think we'll feel it when I get it back in my pocket. Now here's the trick that I wanted to show you about using a sharpener while you're doing your teardown. These metal bushings can sometimes develop little burrs, or as there's sand inside or any debris that gets between the metal bushing and the blade, that can cause little burrs, and we want to polish that down. So I'll use something like the flat ceramic of the bench stone, and I can polish the bushing. I'll just work it back and forth. It doesn't really matter the pattern, but we're looking to knock down any burrs and smooth out the surface. This true flat ceramic stone is a really effective way to do that. You could even use the ceramic rod on the guided field sharpener, just working it back and forth and making sure you're working every angle of that bushing at a time. If you want to get crazy with it, you can even strop it back and forth on the leather strop when you're done. This will really help polish up that edge. Make sure you get all of the compound, or if there's any compound that rubs off of the leather strop onto the bushing, make sure you get that off before you reassemble the knife. When I reassemble, I'm going to put just one small drop of oil between where the blade and the washer will rest together. You don't need very much, but this will really improve the action when it's opening. For reassembling something, specifically these axis locks, I found it's good to get the pivot screw partially inserted. Once I have that, I'll drop one of the washers on top of that partially inserted screw. Next, I'll get the blade on there. Now that I've got the blade on and the pivot driven through the blade and one washer, the last washer slides on. It's going to be kind of a tight fit. I'll either use a Torx bit or maybe another knife to help get everything aligned. Once I get the pivot all the way aligned and through this inner frame piece, I'm ready to insert the backspacer and put on the other scale. I'm just going to go finger tight on these Torx bits right now. For the most part, the Torx bits that come on the micro sharpener and on many other toolkits for knives have fairly soft bits. This is intentional so that it doesn't damage the hardware of the knife. That being said, don't over tighten. You can get the job done and your knife is solid and put together, usually finger tight on the bit. If you want to, you can give 1/8 of a turn with a bigger driver, more leverage to snug things up and get a tight fit. I'm using a T6 for all the small hardware, and it's a T10 for the pivot screw. For the pivot specifically, I'm not trying to tighten this down a lot. I'm just trying to get it to hold in place. We'll come back and do our tuning later. All right, looks like I pinched the masking tape inside of the frame when I put it together. Let me pull that apart real quick and get the blade out, and then I can come back in and get this final screw in. All right, much better. Now let's get to tuning. Wow, we're already almost there. I think I'd like a little bit more smooth action. We'll open and close a few times to see where we're at, but looks like I just need to loosen just a tad on that pivot screw. I think this will break in very nicely in my pocket. There's some flex in the knife, but there's almost no blade play going on. Just how I like it. I'll keep an eye on that pivot screw over time, dial it in if I need to. Right now, I've got a fidgety knife back in my pocket. Don't forget, when you're breaking down a knife, I like to use the micro sharpener. It gives you the 3 Torx bits you need on hand. But what I really like about using a knife sharpener is polishing the bushings inside of the action. If you're dealing with metal bushings, it's a great way to touch them up, and you'll be surprised if you have any of the grainy action or you think it's grabbing at all. Use something like a flat ceramic, and you can even strop on some leather. Those bushings will be super smooth, and your action will be super snappy. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments if you want to see any other knife breakdowns. Our focus is on sharpening, but we thought we'd change it up a little bit with this one. If you have sharpening questions, leave those in the comments down below. See you back here in the workshop next week.